Lane is not here. Jane Johnson. Brandon Self. Here. Michael York.
Here.
Victoria Ames.
Here.
Selectmen's Rep Bill Hutwelker. Alternate Steve Malone. Alternate Michael Scungio.
Here.
And alternate Brian Vertigal is not here. So I will seat Michael Scungio for Richard Lane. And the agenda this evening, applications and public hearings. We have Planning Board number 23-012. That's a multi-tenant application. Daniel Lussier Jr. requests to operate a meat deli shop in the existing multi-tenant commercial property owned by Richard Pratt located at 919 West Swanzey Road, Unit 4 and 5. The subject property is shown at tax map 71, lot 11 in the business district. Item B, which is Planning Board number 23-013. That's a site plan modification. TC Legacy LLC requests a site plan modification to construct 660 square foot addition to an existing structure at 67 California Street. Subject property is shown at tax map 73, lot 24, and is located in the commercial industrial district. Then under discussions and other business, we have a site plan review extension request from New Hampshire Solar Garden. Site plan review regulations discussion, plan reading workshop, any other business as may be required. So first of all, regional impact vote would be in order.
I think that there is no regional impact.
Okay, vote by Michael York that nothing on tonight's agenda requires a regional impact.
Becomes Jane.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Brandon. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, and it'll just be noted for the minutes that Jane is here. And the minutes of May 25th, 2023. Does anyone have any comments on those minutes? Changes or anything like that? If not, a motion to approve as presented would be in order.
So
Motion by Victoria to approve as presented, seconded by Michael York. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, brings us to our first application, which is number 23-012, and that's the multi-tenant application. And that's Daniel Lussier Jr. request to operate a meat and deli shop in the existing multi-tenant commercial property. And that's owned by Richard Pratt, located at 919 West Swanzey Road, and it's unit 4/5. And it's shown at tax map 71, lot 11. And I will open the public hearing. We have the drawings in front of us here. And who would the applicant be?
these drawings are not for this application, they're to the following.
Oh, yes, that's right. Thank you, that's right, yes. Okay. Yep. And any additions to your application? Describe what you're going to be doing there.
We'll be selling raw meat, sandwiches, little produce.
Mm-hmm. And there's going to be no seating in there?
No seating.
No, it's just going to be strictly takeout, then,
Takeout.
by the sounds of it.
Yep.
And let's see. Also, the septic system on that parcel. It's probably going to be putting a fair amount more load on that system, I would think. Is there any idea about that system? Is the owner here?
No, he's not.
No, he is, yes. Do you know
Yes, it's Richard.
about the septic system? And
That's what the state handles that, so they'll do a load calculation on a square foot of the whole entire plaza, and then the septic designer will say what it can come back as. Once the state does what the load limit is for this particular application.
And then your then your septic designer is designing a new septic system for you, you mean?
No septic.
He's gonna look over the original one.
Right, because when the last guy that came in for approval, what it was is, it's so many square feet per person,
Mhm.
and there's only so many bathrooms, so they do the calculation on what you know, a meat deli or an ice cream or retail.
Yeah.
So with the other retails in it, it puts the load so there's more available for this application. So once the state comes back with what they request, and then it'll go to the septic guy, he'll do the calculation and say, you know, it's good, it's bad, or we gotta add to it, or do nothing, or.
Okay. Any plans of a grease trap or anything in there for that type of a?
Yeah, I mean,
Business.
definitely be a grease trap because it's private septic, and I'm not gonna, there'll be a grease trap in there.
Private or not, it's a good idea.
Yeah, no, it comes out of my pocket. So there'll be a grease trap, you know, they'll have maintenance, they'll keep track of the records so it'll be cleaned and, you know, checked usually you do those about every 3 to 4 weeks. They just put a trap, they scrape the scum off the top, you know, cleaned it and just keep a record of it.
The small trap, sounds like you're talking about. Generally, you just pump them out every quarter, but it sounds like a small trap you're talking about.
Yeah, it's only gonna be for the sink,
Yeah.
that's the only thing it's gonna be.
Oh, okay, it is a small trap then.
Yeah, it's just for the 3-bay sink.
Mhm. And cooking, that type of stuff you're gonna be doing there, or no?
We'll do hot sandwiches to go with, and baking bread, we'll do some big fresh bread,
Mhm.
but not much.
But it'll be a convection oven.
Yes.
Okay, and also in your application, you had space for five parking spaces out front there. And I think it currently calls for 7 spaces for the,
There's more out there, I don't know, you must have put that in there? Okay. I mean, as you know, there's plenty of parking.
there are a lot there.
Yeah.
Right, but you're gonna allot 7 spaces then for
Yeah.
your space there, that's what you need. And like you said, there's no sit down there, so it's gonna be for the retail space.
Correct.
Okay. Let's see what else here. Board members?
Your license from the state, is that pending?
Yeah, everything's all done, just gotta wait on the,
We would probably ask you to send us a copy of that, please.
Well, not to interrupt you, but before the state goes any further,
We gotta have approval.
you gotta have the approval from the town, and then the state looks at it, and then they put down a date.
Right.
So the first step, they have submitted everything, but the town has to say it's an approved spot.
Let's see, any other board members have questions here? No? Okay. So it looks like the only issues then are to see if that septic system can handle that business. And that's an approval, I guess it's probably a letter from your septic designer. Once the
Yes.
state comes in.
He will do it directly with the state, they go back and forth.
And that's above and beyond or separate from your licensing. So another department you're working with there.
DES is with that, and DHHS is for the license.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions? Any from the public, any other questions on this multi-tenant? No?
Do you say how many hours they'd be open?
Yeah.
we're thinking 10 to 6, Wednesday through Sunday, close Monday, Tuesday, see how business is, and
Okay. If there's nothing else, no other questions, then I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. So it looks like 2 things would be waited on. One thing would be the condition of the septic system there, whether it can hold that kind of a load or not. And the other thing is the license for the business. So those could be conditions if the board wanted to approve, or if the board wanted to continue it until those are in, that's the board's purview.
I make a motion that we approve it pending the 2 conditions we just stated.
Okay, motion by Michael York to approve with the conditions that the septic system gets a clean bill of health, we'll say.
I'll second.
Yes, seconded by Brandon himself, and also that they get the state license that they need for operation. Is there any further discussion? And all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so need to get that septic approval there, and the town needs a copy of that. You can bring it to the land use office when we get that.
Yep.
And the approval will be final after that, but not until then, and of course, until you get your license there.
Awesome, thank you.
And if you want to change your hours of operation, you need to come back.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, item B. And item B is a site plan modification, and that is TC Legacy requests a site plan modification to construct a 660 square foot addition to an existing structure at 67 California Street. Subject property is shown at tax map 73, lot 24, and is located in the commercial industrial district. And this time we have the plans in front of us for this one. And I will open up the public hearing. So, we know pretty much what this is. Do you have anything to add in here, Ray?
Yeah, we do. Daniel Shabbat Senior.
May I have your name, please? Yeah, for the record.
Daniel Shabbat Senior.
Thank you.
Owner and partner of TC Legacy, 67 California Street, Swanzey. On my behalf, I am going to introduce you to my lovely wife, who's the chaos coordinator and the project manager of this, since she handled the logistics of connecting with architects. Tim Sampson, and I'm in touch with the general contractors in general. So with that, I'm going to have her give an overview on our behalf from my sister and myself.
It's pretty straightforward, and
Can I
I'll
just
just,
have your first name, please?
sure, my name is Jennifer Shabbat, Jennifer L. Shabbat,
Thank you.
so different from my sister, Jennifer. Just as you may recall, as a review, we came in back in April conceptually to talk about this project, and at that time we didn't have a plan. And now we have this plan that places it on the site, and it shows you the drawings for the addition. And just, the entire property being primarily of trade services. This particular project will benefit the carpentry shop that works there now. Really our goal is to maintain the entire property in a safe and attractive manner, where the businesses provide services to the community and are proud to provide their work and prosper, and to cultivate an environment that is a pleasure to serve and to support the success of these trade services in the town of Swansea. This request is to build an addition to the backside of building number 8. This will address the immediate need for more space at the custom cabinetry shop. This additional space will mean that jobs can be staged in a way that projects can be spaced throughout and improve and enhance his project management of a job, or perhaps multiple jobs being staged at any given time. And then I guess I will open it to questions based on what you have in front of you.
Thank you. Okay, so board members, as you can see here, we've got a partial plan in front of us. They're asking for waivers, and there are other items that they did not submit in there. Again, this is an addition to that building there. They're going to be back again for a future building this lot, as I had described before. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, that's correct. So,
Not quite ready on that yet, but we're working on it.
yep. So we don't have the entire lot drawn out here. We have just enough so we can see what the addition is going to be. If you have I have a checklist right here to see the items that we're missing, and one of them was a north arrow, but we've got it right there on the plot, so we do have the north arrow in there. And the perimeter boundary lines and the lot area in square feet and in acres is not provided, but again, we're looking at just a small addition to that building. They should be in later with a full site plan review with that information on it. So that's one thing we have to consider, whether that's going to be okay, yes or not, to leave that out. And what do you think? Or do you want me to just go down them all, and if you have an objection to one of them, then we'll talk about it. How if I do it that way?
Sure.
There are a few of them on the list here. So they also asked for a waiver for, let's see, what do we have for a waiver down below? Okay, we'll get to the waivers later on.
So I may be able to answer questions on, this is the first time filling out this form, so I may be able to answer questions on any of it, or how I answered it.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So we've got also the location, name, and widths of any existing and proposed roads on the property. There's nothing proposed. There is an existing driveway on there, but again, we're going to see a whole site plan of this in the future here, I think. So you can take that in consideration. Also, identification of access from the site to public streets, site distances from the access point, curb cuts, and proposed changes, if any, to existing streets. Again, We're looking at the small addition to that building there. Everything else is staying the same. Let's see, also we have landscape plan, and again, about this, there's no landscape plan with it, and obviously it's because it's an addition right there for that. It's an approved site plan. So let's see, and location, type, and nature of all existing and proposed lighting. That will probably be on the formal site plan when you come in later. And just, board members, just speak up if you think that that should be on this plan here. That's what we're going down the list for. And let's see, they want a waiver from natural features such as water bodies, ledge outcropping, wetlands, and so on and so forth. And asking for a waiver for existing and proposed grades and topographical contour at 5-foot intervals. And we have some topographical contours already on this one, but not for the entire plat, but around the existing building here. So asking for a waiver for that one, but the waiver probably won't be for the actual site plan. If you bring the site plan in for the other building there, the planning board will require that the topical
And that's
be for the
part,
entire
yeah,
lot.
that is part of what we're contracting for
Okay.
that future plan.
Okay. And, next would be the size and accurate location of all existing and proposed water mains, culverts, fire hydrants, fire ponds, which doesn't really pertain to this whatsoever. Means of providing water supply.
All right, so it's gonna be sprinkled on that building addition?
The addition, that little addition there.
Yeah. It's right next to the body shop.
If the fire department says so, I don't know if that building is sprinkled even, the only one that's there. But the fire department generally has to sign off on these things anyway.
I don't think it would be necessary because it's less than 50%, it's more or less than 50% of the.
It's still, in my mind, it's still dangerous with if that body shop wasn't there, yeah.
What body shop?
YBA.
YBA.
It's not a
It
body
is
shop.
separated by a,
It's a mechanic shop. out
it
there.
is also
Still,
separated by
they
a,
do grinding and stuff like that in there.
It's separated by.
it's separated by a concrete wall as well. The main body of the
Yeah.
building, the YBA, is concrete.
But it is
That's
up to the
concrete
fire
wall.
department, of
Okay.
course.
But if we need to talk to the fire department,
They will, yeah, they will probably want to take a look, probably for that, definitely for the new one.
They have reviewed the architectural plans that were submitted. I'm sure they'll be coming out to do a site visit as well, but they were comfortable with the plan that was submitted.
Okay, good. Let's see, brings us surface drainage patterns, again, for the entire site plan. It's pretty flat there, I know, but for when you get the big site plan in, the board will require that. Let's see. Got that. Location and type of proposed sewage disposal system. And again, that should be located on the plan when you bring the other one in, because it's not on here, and I'm assuming that you know where it is, and it should be located on the site. And location, let's see, of existing and proposed on-site well showing 75-foot radius, the same with that. If you can locate the well on there, you can show it on the plan. Let's see, soil survey data from Cheshire County Soil Survey. When they could do the contours, the same person will probably be the one that will do the soil survey, just put the types of soils on there. And that's, again, standard procedure. And location of any existing or proposed easements, deed restrictions, and or covenants. There are none. I'm assuming there are none on there. And architectural plans, we have those. Okay. So those are the items that they're asking for a waiver, and the items that aren't here. If it's okay with the board to proceed with those items missing, or waive those items, actually is what we should do for this, if we're gonna do that. Then we'll just need a motion to do that.
I'm totally comfortable with that, because I view this, thanks to you coming in for the conceptual discussion, which I think was really great, and grateful that you did that. This, as presented before, was like a stopgap solution for your tenant who needs extra space to support his business, right? But we know you're coming back, and at that point, we need to have all the information that will go on the ultimate site plan. So I'm totally good with.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me
too. So let's have a motion that we grant them the waivers that they're asking for, as well as the items that they're missing on here for this site plan here.
Knowing that the complete site plan will be presented when the new proposed building is presented.
It will,
If and when.
and if it's missing, it won't be accepted. you know,
Right.
that's how that would work.
Understood. We're just waiting for it to be done.
Okay, so is that a motion,
Yes.
Victoria? Okay, motion by Victoria to grant the waivers and to grant them, I guess, the recognition of the other missing items for our checklist. Is there a second? Seconded by Brandon, I guess I'll give you that one there. Second by Brandon. Is there any further discussion? Then all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, good, we're beyond that. So that really just brings us to the building application, and we've got a lot of information here. We've got the plans in front of us. There are larger building plans on the back there, or in the next last 2 pages here. You can see a little better than in our packet. Pretty straightforward what they want to do here. And questions from the board on this. There is further information in our packet about the entire thing, how the buildings are being used on that parcel. They brought that in before too. We still have it here. But for the proposed 600 square foot addition, do we have any questions for the applicant? I don't either. We know, you can see from the architectural plan that's going to be set up inside. Of course, the fire department will be inspecting that anyway. It looks like there are 2 rooms there. They've got an overhead door and existing door to remain, so there'll be access into the building there. Pretty self-explanatory. And that's going to be, it looks like a steel building at the outside. Is that what that is? Siding to match the existing. Oh, it's T111.
T111,
Okay,
which
it's
will
wood.
match the other part of the
Okay.
existing building that has it above the concrete block.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
it will be a continuous appearance.
Okay. Yeah, flat roof on that. Any other questions from the board? No other public or anybody, I guess nobody on the Zoom, anybody on Zoom asking? Okay. If no other questions, I'm going to close the public hearing. And the public hearing is closed. So, let's see. Pretty straightforward, as we can see. They will be back for another addition to that with a larger site plan. Pretty straightforward, working with this pretty well. And let's see, if it's approved, the conditions would be by, of course, the usual final approval by the fire department and by the building inspector. I can't think of any other conditions to put on it. Anybody else? If not, a motion to approve would be in order.
I'll make the motion to approve with those conditions.
Motion to approve with the conditions that the fire department sign off and the building inspector sign off on it. Is there a second? Second. Is there any further discussion? Oh, it was a second by Michael. Oh, Jane? No, I recognize Michael.
Michael over there.
To second it. Is there any further discussion? Then all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, and you'll just contact the fire department, or they'll be contacting you, one or the other, and you're right ahead, and hope to see you in here soon.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. No, we aren't, we waived that.
All the waivers requested came in this night.
Yes.
I wanted to confirm.
You
Thank you.
mentioned the missing items, right? So yeah, all the missing items as well, we waived it. There wasn't anything that was that important that we needed on there. But on the next, when they bring in the complete site plan, that's most of that stuff. Okay, discussions in other business, site plan review, extension request, that's by New Hampshire Solar Garden. And they request an extension because their Eversource is doing a little, I don't know what they're doing, maybe they're dragging their feet, I don't know, but Eversource is doing a study. And I don't even know what that study is. Did they elaborate on that, what it was? This one here, Solar Garden, yeah, they didn't, they just said that, let's see, Eversource, they're still in progress. And let's see. they will not give them final approval. And I would assume that would be final approval to hook on to their system until they do whatever kind of a study that they're doing. We don't know what it is, so.
Have they done any work on the site at all, really?
I don't believe that they have, because they don't have a building permit yet.
So
And they can't start moving earth until they have a building permit.
there's no development there, there's no substantial development, there's no preliminary development there by the sounds of it. But it does sound like it's a reasonable reason for an extension, that it's beyond their control. If Eversource is holding them up with some sort of a study, then I would say it's beyond their control. And they might be warranted for the 12-month extension. And let's see, we do that with the motion. Also, there were other conditions we put on that plat to be, for those, and there were administrative ones that they had a year to do those as well. It hasn't been a year. I think it's
New Hampshire DOT, access permit, alteration,
yeah, so they,
bonding, decommissioning agreement.
if they haven't gotten all those permits, they still have time to do it, so it has nothing to do with what we're discussing here tonight on that type of an extension. So, no. Anything? No?
I would move that we give them the 12-month extension.
Okay, motion by Jane to grant the 12-month extension. Is there a second?
I'll second it with the understanding that the conditions continue with.
Well, they have to anyways. We already made that
Yeah,
decision
okay.
before, so we'll leave this one without those in there because that's not part of what we're talking about tonight here.
And this would be a 1-year extension. Could they get another one after that or not?
Not according to our site plan
Right, that's what
regulations,
I-
but we
we could.
probably could. I don't know. I don't think we have done that before, but,
I believe the regulations say that they have to reapply, that they're,
okay.
Start from scratch, in other words?
Yeah, have to reapply. Yeah, 12 months, it's 12 months.
So would this be a 1-year continuation or from tonight, or would this be a 1 year from when we approved it back in July?
from the 28th of July.
It would be. Just curious.
Yeah, so they'll get a year from that.
Yeah, the July
Of
one.
this 20th, of this year, 20th of July of this year.
Yes,
The other
yes.
question is, we're working on a zoning application for solar farms.
Let's get this done first.
Well, there's a reason for the question.
Is there a second, do we have a second? You seconded it, Michael? Michael
I know, I
seconded it?
thought she already did.
Oh, Victoria's, okay, Victoria's, okay, we got a second, okay, now we can enter into discussion, okay.
The question is that, okay, we give them the extension, they don't apply, so they have to come back from scratch. Now, we're working on, I believe Jules is working on the zoning application that we're gonna look at.
Mhm.
If we were to pass that before they came back in for another application, how would that affect them?
They would be subject to it because their zoning relief that they received for this application is currently held open by their site plan application
Right,
approval.
and if nothing happened up to the 28th and that whole thing stopped and they have to come back in, then they have to apply through what regulations we pass.
But yeah,
See what I'm
that,
saying?
I agree with that too, but yeah, that's right, that we're approving for another 12 years, 12 months, sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm not against that, I'm not against that, I'm just saying, I just want that other information out there.
But there's, and I don't know the exact wording, but in the 5-year exemption in the RSAs, it states that if the planning board doesn't spell out what is substantial development or building on the property, then they automatically get the 5-year grant of, I guess, from our zoning ordinance and any other ordinances. So they would still have it, if their 12-month, the extension we give them, if that runs out, that would be, in my opinion, they would not have that 5-year. And I think in your opinion too, right?
As long as there's no
No.
activity, no
Yeah.
development on the
Yeah.
Right.
property, unless they come in to request some minimum standard be defined by the board for what that
Right,
would look like.
he's hoping they can get it done, but, you know, with Eversource, you just don't know.
But I'm saying since the board didn't set what it was when we granted the approval, they could come in and probably just take a couple shovels of dirt out of there. And as long as they started it, we didn't define what the substantial development was, they would have that 5-year exemption. And
I think you still are allowed to make a determination on that.
after
Because
the fact.
the regulations do say
Oh, yeah.
that that's your discretion, what constitutes active and substantial development.
I think we do in our regulations.
Right.
But that is only pertaining to, I think, our,
It's not on the 5-year part.
I don't think it pertains to that. I think it's only to whether they have their approval and it's enough to continue the approval. I don't think I think the RSA is on the 5-year part of it. Supersedes that.
I'm hoping it doesn't go there, but we should be prepared in our minds if it does get to that point. Because there always is a possibility.
Prepared to whether or not they would be held to the new regulations.
Yeah.
And we're thinking that they would be held to the new regulations.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too,
Yeah.
but. And we don't know what Joe's thing looks like at this point either.
No, we don't. It may be exactly like they've got it there, or something.
You know, where are we gonna allow it?
Yeah, but the planning board will review the whole thing anyway, and, and see, add to it, subtract from it, whatever it was before we presented to the voters.
I'm not gonna be able to find that in here because I've spent too much time with the new one.
I know what you mean, yeah. I know what I mean, but we could just look at it for a second. It has nothing really to do with our vote, though, I guess. So we might as well take the vote. The motion is on the floor to grant the 12-month extension, and there's a second. And is there?
Who made the motion?
The motion was by Jane, yes. It was by Jane, and it was seconded by Victoria. Okay, thanks. And any further discussion? Then all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so they got it. Let's just take a look we're gonna get to the site plan regulations anyways, aren't we? Isn't that our next item up here?
But the new ones don't apply to,
No, they don't. No, they don't apply to that. But we didn't change too much in the new ones, did we? In that
Well-
substantial development part of it?
I don't think we changed much. I know that it said 4 years before, we changed it to 5 years to match
Of
the
course, we have
statute.
another property too up here on Route 12 that I don't see much going on either, that we gave an extension to. So that would also.
You haven't noticed much out there?
No,
Since the last time you drove by it?
a week ago.
Drove by it again.
Which way were you looking? Which side?
And you guys did make a determination of what would constitute active and substantial development on that property
Yes, we
when
did.
they came in.
Yes.
We have in our site plan regs different places where that extension is there, I think.
It's on page 19.
Is it- I'm on the old one here.
I'm on
Are
the
you
old one,
one?
yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, the 4-year exemption anyway. Pretty much, I think it's the same, the new one there.
Well, it is a little different because we just point directly to the RSA in the new one.
Yep. Per the lawyer's suggestion,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and which was, I think, a good suggestion, is to do that, point it right in there. So I think there are two things we're talking about, though, as far as that. We're talking about the 12-month extension about the substantial development, and also we're talking about the 5-year, like the 5-year now, exemption from ordinances.
Mhm.
So,
they would be locked in to the current, the zoning ordinance that they were approved in and the site plan regulations they were approved in
which
for
are
4 years,
these old ones?
which are the old ones.
Yeah.
Okay, to answer your
I
question.
think, so
It might sound like a silly question, but
No, it's a good question.
It is.
It's a good test for all our brains.
there you go.
Did everybody pick up a copy of the most current draft of the site plan regulations? I don't want to jump over Scott, but I just want to make sure everybody that we're all talking off of the same papers yesterday, and it's right there.
And has everyone reviewed them yet, or shall we just go over the things? What we did, I got together with Sarah last week, I think it was, and I think at the last meeting, we pretty much agreed about looking it over, see what the lawyer said about it, see whether it made sense or not. And it looked like the lawyer's suggestions, though minor, most of them were, they made pretty much sense. So Sarah just incorporated them into this new set that we have here. And you can see it's sort of a little darker there is a new, as you see on them, it's like it's shaded a little bit with some of the new stuff added in there. But there are also, and do we want to go over those, or are we just looking at them, or, we've been over these regulations a lot. We could go over a few of them. We added in, on page 2, the attorney had a problem with our multi-tenant part of it there, and saying that, it needs a site plan or it doesn't, one or the other. It can't be both, or it can't be anything in between, and he was correct on that. It is true. So to remedy that, on page 2, on number 3A, we added this in. I'll read it from the beginning. The planning board shall have the responsibility for making the final decision as to the necessity of a site plan review. Where there is any doubt as to whether or not a project requires site plan review, and we added this in, as may be the case with businesses moving into multi-use buildings that have received previous site plan approval. Then it goes on, the affected party should request a determination from the board, and we added this in at a regularly scheduled meeting. And that covers it, so they can come in and the board can decide whether they're required to come in for a site plan approval or not, whether the business is close enough so that the current site plan takes care of it or not. So instead of having that whole thing in there that the lawyer said was probably not the best thing to have in there. So that's how we addressed it. So I don't know, anybody have any comments on that?
Good solution.
Move forward. Okay. Let's see. And on page 5, the lawyer suggested this, and this would be about in the middle of the page, that little 5, and you can see it's darkened up. It says the board may review documents presented by the applicant at the design review meeting, but shall not accept any such documents as formal submissions. And which is a good call, put it in there just to make it clear what we're doing there. So that was from lawyer suggestions. And let's see, we're gonna find this, one of these, Sarah, just put it in there.
We're on page 10.
Okay, page 10, item E, page 10, up top there. And the acceptance will be by affirmative vote of a majority of the board members present. And it adds in, if notice of a public hearing was included in the notice under 3C, a public hearing may follow immediately. If not, a public hearing will be scheduled for a time and date certain. He just wanted to make it clear in there if it was noticed for the public hearing or not, and what would be done, which is good. Okay. We added something in page 12. Page 12C, at the very top there, it says site plan approval will be valid for 1 year, and we added in after the date upon which the board voted to approve, provided that, and then it goes down the whole business there. We just want to make it clear what date we're talking about, whether it's when we sign the plat or when we do a conditional approval or a regular approval. We want to make clear, and we borrowed that from 67715, in RSAs, they use the same type of language, so it clears it up and says, be valid for 1 year after the date upon which the board voted to approve. Then there's no question. Okay, next, what was next episode? That was 13. Yeah. And 13 on B, we talk about conditional approval. It says, if a conditional approval has been granted pursuant to 6A in this section, and then this was added in here, the lawyer, the conditions need to be met within 1 year, or the approval is null and void, and the applicant must resubmit the application. We had taken that out on one of the other ones to address how the, let's see, that court case that we're talking about. Yeah, that Sergio weird court case we were talking about, to address the concerns there about the preliminary,
Precedent and.
yeah, precedent, subsequent
Yeah.
conditions and that type of stuff. So it looks like in the RSAs, they kind of make it confusing, but it looks like that the legislature did it on purpose so that the approval and the 30-day appeal period runs from when the vote was taken, regardless of whether there are conditions on there, regardless of whether they'd come back for a preliminary, not preliminary,
Compliance.
for the compliance, thank you, for the compliance hearing or not. Regardless of any of those, the legislature said you've got 30 days from when the board voted, whether the plat was signed or not. So anyway, so we have redone our regulations here to sort of do the thing with those two different types of conditions. Lawyer said, we think you ought to take it out of there, so we took it all out of there and put it back the way it was. That's what these additions are, and that way we had it before. And we get number C, again, we have if the conditions, we put this back in. If the conditions are met within the 1 year time frame, the approval becomes final without further public hearing, and the applicant has 1 year from that date to demonstrate active and substantial development as defined in the approval. So do we want to leave it like that, or do we want to, have it that he has 1 year from when we take that vote, or 1 year from when he comes in with the last approval? Because I think we could do it either way, couldn't we, Sarah? Yeah.
I think we could, I'd have to check.
I think we've been doing it, I think, when they come in with the final approval, the administrative one, into the office there, we've been giving them 1 year after that. So do we want to continue that, or do we want to give them just the 1 year regardless? Because sometimes it's beyond their control, when they're going to get that darn approval, and they can't touch anything until they get that approval.
Especially when you're dealing with the state agencies.
Yeah, and you can't do the substantial improvement to the property until you get, we'll say, permit from the state, or dredge and fill, or any of that type of stuff. So I always say we should keep it like this, like we've been doing it, but we have the option to do whatever we want to do, I guess. Keep it this way?
Yeah, let's keep it
Okay,
like
let's
this.
keep it that way. Next one. Going to the page 22.
Yeah.
22 on that one, you think? Let's see here. Page 22, yeah, 22. And that has to do with that 5-year exemption we were just talking about. And at the end of that paragraph on section 10, we just added, per the lawyer, as provided in and subject to the requirements of RSA 674-39. And then they can read it over for themselves to see how to interpret it. And I think that's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I did change the formatting just slightly. I added bold headings to different sections, as Victoria suggested, and there were a couple of typos in there here and there that Victoria found, and I cleaned that stuff up without your blessing, so I kind of want to make you aware of
I
it.
think the bold headlines is a good idea.
It is a good idea.
Going through, you don't want to sit there.
Way easier to navigate, and one of those sections, I forget which one it is so long that you forget on which section you're at, and you've got to backpedal about 5 pages.
Yeah,
But
I think it's,
I just marked mine up with a pen. I'm under section 10, 11, 12, whatever the heck it is, so I know where I am on the thing. Victoria had some comments on page 4.
Yeah, I've got two questions. One is actually something that Sarah pointed out at the top of page 4. I was confused by the sentence, but Sarah said, well, wait a minute, do we really want to have board members making reasonable attempts to notify the property owner of site visits by individual members? Because that means we're knocking as individual people on the door of property owners, and that's going to open up us having ex parte communications. So maybe we should just strike that.
I think you're right, I'd agree, it should be a site visit or not,
Yeah,
one or the other.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, and then I had one other question on page 8, the new page 8, and that is number 2, where it says the planning board may engage any professional assistance as is required to adequately evaluate reports and stuff like that. And it seemed to me like that pertained to all of these kinds of reports that we are allowing ourselves to ask for. So I wondered whether that might be more appropriately at the top of, or at the bottom, but not sort of mixed in as a subsection of section 5.
So you would suggest to put it where, for instance?
Well, either at the beginning or the end, but it's not like a subcategory.
Page 8.
I'm sorry, Victoria, which section are you talking
It's
about?
page 8, number 2.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
and my thought is that
To move it to
make it clear that we could use that, that we're allowed to engage professional help. We're allowed to engage professional help on any of these different kinds of plans and analyses. So maybe it should be at the very beginning, or it could be its own little separate thing, at the very end, just before as-built plans. It says such other information as may be deemed necessary, blah, blah, blah. We could stick it in there and say that the planning board,
let's see,
I think actually I would put it at the beginning. If it were me, I would just put it at the beginning and sort of heads up, we can ask for analyses and evaluations, unless there's a reason why it's here. And if there is a reason, then I'm all about it, but I just didn't understand why it's there.
I understand, it's there, right, I think we probably should move that, because it was there, it was in part of those suggestions that we came up with for the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
And we had it in there just in case we had to, do other, types of studies and things for underlying aquifers and things like that.
Yeah.
I think so, if it were, I don't know, somewhere at the beginning, where should we put
Yeah,
it?
which beginning do you want, which page?
Well,
Yeah,
it's on page 7 where it says other. In my dreams, I would replace that single word other with additional plans and analyses that may be required, because it's a little more specific. And then I would start it off with, so the new title is additional plans and analyses that may be required instead of other. And then the first item would be the planning board may require any professional assistance as is required.
I think that's a good place for it.
I'm sorry, would you repeat
So-
what you're referring to?
Sure.
Replacing other with what?
Additional plans and analyses that may be required would be the new title for C.
Right, I'm assuming that you're making that the title.
Yeah, and then it would begin with, it's not even an element of the outline necessarily, it's just an overarching
It's just a statement.
permission, right?
And we're not giving that a number, we're just
I would just stick it
putting
in
that
here
as
at
a
the
paragraph
beginning. Yeah,
underneath it and
heads up,
starting that.
right?
Yeah, okay, just to be clear, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good thing to move that over there, because it will make it pertain to everything else too. But yeah, that's how that got in there. Anybody else have anything on the site plan review regulations?
Oh,
Good.
I actually do. I just wanted to bring everybody's attention to page 1, the site plan review fee schedule. The excavation permit fee and the new tenant application, I guess, starting with the new tenant application, it seems like with the changes that are proposed to site plan review with multi-tenant process being under scope of review, it wouldn't be necessary to distinguish between new tenant and multi-tenant because everything's going to follow that new procedure that we now will not have. But we discussed that new businesses, any business moving into a multi-tenant building would come to the board first for a determination of the necessity of site plan review. So.
Are we going to replace the the new tenant application with just one application, that's the multi-tenant application?
Yeah.
Okay, so, you're saying just cross that whole thing out.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
Unless you guys don't think that makes sense.
I think it makes sense. It's, because, right, it's the same darn thing, it's gonna be anyway.
And then the excavation permit fee, I don't have an excavation permit that I can charge a fee for. The assessing coordinator has an excavation permit that the state charges a fee for, which is sort of separate from our
That's not
process.
site
Yeah.
plan
So I'm
review.
not really, unless you guys know of,
No,
because I don't have this permit, so I thought maybe we could remove it from the
yeah,
list.
let's do that, because, right, never said it either.
Make up one.
Yeah.
We'll make one up.
No, I think that's good too. Anybody else? I think that's good.
So, someone from Zoom called, I guess, New Hampshire Solar Garden asks, did the solar extension receive an approval? I joined at 6:30 thinking the 2 public hearings would take some time. Thank you, Andrew.
What was the last part he said about the public hearings?
Oh, I joined at 6:30 thinking the 2 public hearings would take some time.
Okay, yeah, well, I guess they didn't, but anyways, yes, the extension was granted, the 12-month extension.
Okay.
Thank you for letting us know somebody's on there. I forget about that whole thing at all. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, everybody. I don't think you can hear me.
Okay, so we're getting rid of the excavation permit fee and getting rid of the new tenant application and the fee, correct? Correct, okay. Right, so I think then we might be ready for a public hearing.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Next
will
meeting,
set that up for June 22nd. I will have the table of contents fixed soon, now that we're done.
Yeah, perfect.
playing with it.
Yeah, and I'll incorporate the changes from this evening.
Yeah, super. There. Now for the subdivision regulations. We're gonna work on those later, but not tonight. Let's see. Plan reading workshop, anybody wanna review any of the plan reading type of it, or I'll let the board decide whether they wanna cut out early tonight, or what we wanna do. We can go over them at any time.
Well, it'd be the first early night we've had in months.
Yes,
Probably would be.
since like last
Yeah.
September.
Yeah. Some people have to drive millions of miles to get home, right?
Not me, but some, yeah.
Shall we call it an early night then?
I have something, I have a show and tell for the
Okay.
attorney. My husband went on a tour today per invitation of the Flat Lake Company that's building over off 32. So I said, I'll take this and show the board, and Sarah, you can keep it if you want to. He got multiple copies. They put them on a trolley. Yeah, this doesn't have to go in a minute, this is separate. He put them
During the
on a
meeting.
trolley and took them around to show them this development and other things in Nashua. And yes, it's Nashua. And by the way, I was showing him the plans for the building over by where the fun park was. And he said, I saw that today. They have the same thing in Nashua, and it's ugly.
Oh, do they? They have a building like that?
Yes, they
up
said
there?
that the other night, that they have one
Did
they
he
built
take-
one in
should-
Nashua, and it's
taking
that
a picture
color.
on his phone?
Inside, you can take a look at the landscaping that they did in front of some of the things, and it's in an area, when I looked at it, I thought about the industrial park where he is gonna set that development back into the woods and, you
You
know,
want to take a look? I'll get it back to you soon.
and it's, you know, they do quality building. And he thought that the EDAC people might like to see it too. They can,
if Greg's not bringing copies to EDAC on Monday, I can bring that and
you,
share with them.
you take that one. Anyway, that one's for you.
Early Christmas present.
What, getting out early tonight?
That too, that's a bonus one.
All right, anybody have anything else for the meeting? If not, meeting to adjourn would be in order.
That's always your department.
Motion by James to adjourn, is there a second?
I'll
Seconded by Brandon, is there any further discussion? All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, and we are officially adjourned.
Recording stopped.